Hello everyone, welcome to the project Crop Guide. In the modern times, with many environmental factors to be considered, it's so challenging for the agriculture sector to make effective decisions at the right time. So, this application can help the farmers to make better decisions on the crops to be harvested based on several surveys and parameters. So, what basically this application does is it maintains a great record of different crops and their optimal conditions and maps these factors to the parameters taken from the user as input based on the extensive research and outputs the best crop in the GUI. Now let us discuss few general scenarios of this application. So in a general scenario, we can say that ineffective agriculture techniques and lack of money and knowledge, farmers tend to buy seeds that are of low cost and in return result a huge loss to the farmers, and also huge loss occurs to the environment wherein farmers are literally using the fertilizers to hide the productivity of low quality seeds, which is never gonna happen. Now let us discuss the tech stack involved in this project. Python, PyQt5 and DBMS. PyQt5 is used for creating GUI is known as graphical user interface, and then DBMS is known as database management system. And I will show you some sample inputs and outputs of this program. You can see that I have given season as Kharif and state as Tamil Nadu, and I have given acres as 6 and budget as 65,000, and you can see the output as the crop name and the image of the crop with the pesticides that are we going to use. Now let us wrap up this session. Thank you. So after opening the Qt Designer application, you can see a pop-up naming template/forms. So click on the main window button and click on create. So here you think that what is main window? Main window acts as a placeholder for all the widgets, and you can see that on the right side you can see all the widgets, and the right side you can see two blocks. On the first block you can see object inspector. Basically you will be renaming the widget names by default it will be named under the widget name, but while we are coding it helps us to rename, and we can easily call our object names by the label names or the widget names. After that we can see that property editor. Basically it's a style sheet of the widget. You can change the font, you can change the geometry, you can easily change the color, you can make it bold and everything related to style sheets. Now let us start our application by adding a title for our application. So you can see that if you want to add a title, we need a label. The reason I choose the label is basically label is an uneditable text that says that user can't edit the text in it. Sorry. Now we'll name our application as crop guide. And if you want to add a background color for this crop guide, so go to containers and you can see an option called frame. So click on frame and extend it by pushing the arrows. Now place the crop on this frame, and now frame acts as a background for this crop. So if you want to add color to this frame, just right click on it and you can see a change style sheet option, and click on it and add color as background color and make it yellow. Is of your choice, and you can see that it will be applied. So this is how you add a background color to your title. And if you want to change the font of our title, you can just go to the right side and you can see many things. So in the font family, we can change our font by many options. So let the font this font. Make the font size as 40. Make it bold. Now you can see that you can just extend these and the label automatically extends. Or you can just decrease the font. Now you can see that done. Our title part is done. Now let us add few labels and few text edits. Basically, first, what is known as text edits or line edits? Line edits are those where user can interact with our GUI and add some text to it so that we can compute that. You can find the text edits here in the input widgets. You can also choose text edit for a big paragraph type of inputs, or you can choose line edits for a single line output or input. Now you can just clear this. Yeah. Now I've created one text edit, and now we'll be adding a combo box widget. Combo box helps us to add many elements at one choice. So basically, as we have a column, as we have an input which states the user should give a state and its place he is living. So as there are many states, it's difficult to the user to select, or I mean, you need to write it, it makes difficult to the user. So to make it easy, we'll just use a combo box and add elements. So adding elements, we'll be writing our code in the back end of the project. Now let us make label so that user can see when to add the text or when to add that state. So first we'll add stat. You can also make another combo box and season column, because now the second combo box I have chosen is for the season. Basically there are three farmer seasons. One is Kharif, Rabi and Zaid. And again add a label as season. Now let us add budget. You can also resize those, make it align it properly. So the last one is acres, I mean the land, how much acres of land is having. So again we need a line edit because user will give a number. We completed the part of taking input from the user. So to confirm whether the user has filled everything or not, we will be adding a button known as push button. So we should add a push button so that all the changes made by the user will be reflected. So make it as submit. Now this is the input section. So now let us design the output section. So to divide this frame by two parts, we can use a vertical line which can be available in display widgets. So let us make a vertical line which it is so good for differentiating the input and output. Now we have two outputs in our application. One will be the image and another will be the pesticide should be used in the crop and the crop name. So to add an image to our frame, we will be using the label, and make a big size so that the image fit. Add a line edit or a text edit. So let us add a text edit because if the pesticides are more, this text edit can fit. Now you can see that if the input and output section is done. Now let us add some styling to our state and season, budget and acres, everything. So let us add some styling. Make the font size around 14. Now we'll rename the widget names because while coding it's difficult to remember the names like label 2 or label 1 because we will be like it will be confusing to remember label 1 label 2. So let us change the names. So by clicking on it you can see at the object inspector it's pointing to the label underscore 2. So rename it to label underscore state, and you can also see the changes after. Now let us do the same for the season, for the budget, for the and for the submit. Now that we have renamed the widget name, let us see any other styling required. And you can also increase the font size for the combo box elements. So it will be reflected while we are coding too. So let us increase the font size or 16 because it will be more visible. Will make not make it bold for the season as well. And for state, increase the widget size because there are few states which have large names. So we'll be facing difficulty while seeing the output. And another important thing is this line edits will be taking the input as a form of string. So we need to typecast the string to integer by just converting the data type of the input. So align all widgets properly. Yeah, it's done. And now we can conclude that the designing part of the GUI is finished. Before wrapping the designing part, in future you can also use few widgets like in the display widgets there are many like LCD number, calendar widget, graphic view. So adding these widgets makes the the interactive with the user. So thank you. Now let us convert the .ui file to .py file by writing this command pyuic5 sx input file in my case is crop.ui and output file is t.py. It's of your choice and hit enter, and if you see it went to the next terminal. So you can see that there are no errors. If there are any errors, it might be that the path you have chosen is wrong. So if you want to run the file and to view the GUI, and click the command python filename.py. This is the output. And you can see that the buttons are not working, but you can give the input, you can give the text fields input. So to make it work, we should give some action to the submit button so that at every click it will it will take the input from this line edits and it will compute the output. Now you can open the c.py in your directory and let us give some action to the submit button. So first go to the and here def, write a function def submit self and print clicked. So what do we do is, as there is a submit button, so at every click there should be a print statement named clicked. So let us connect the submit button to the submit object. So to find that, you can go to the 65th line. So the reason why we rename the object names is this. So let us write the code. Now you can see that test.button.clickedConnect. So basically, clickedConnect is an keyword which connects the function and this button. So now you can see that self.submit, and the submit is the function which we created now. Now let us run this program. Now you can see that you click submit, you can see the print statement clicked. So this makes our submit button interactive. Now let us add some functionality to the combo box. So we'll add few items to the combo box underscore 2, which is the seasons. As there are 3 seasons, Kharif, Rabi, Zaid, we will be adding 3 add items. Item is a keyword which is used to add items in the combo box too. So now you can see that there are 3 items, and to give the names of those, just go to the def readtranslate.ui and just type self.combobox underscore 2.setItem, and the index to 0 keep as Kharif, the index 1 position keep Rabi or Zaid as your choice, the set item at index 2 keep it as Rabi. So after this, save it, run. Now you can see that in the seasons there are 3 elements. So this made our code more interactive, and you can see the options in the seasons column. So you can also check that submit button is still working. Now I'll add other items in the state. As there are 29 states, I will be adding 29 states, and I will see you. Now you can see that I've added all the states in the combo box of the state. Now let us run the application and test whether the changes are applied or not. So now you can see that in the state there are all the states in the season as well. And now let us give some more functionalities to the function submit, which have been created before. So I have written some text which helps to get the user input to the variables, so that we can compute some, like we can write some code and we get the results from that. So I have created 4 variables. SC is the season, STA is the state, and money is the budget, and acres is the number of acres of land. So let us print the variables. So before printing them, I'll explain you the functionalities. See, in the combo box, to get the current text, you need to write .current text. But whereas in line edits, to get the text which has been written by the user, you need to use .text. So let us start by running the application. Now you can see that I have given the state as Delhi, season as Zaid, number of acres as 5, budget as at 50,000. Click the submit button. Now you can see in the output screen it gave Delhi, Zaid and 60,000 and the 5. Now let us confirm that we have done the first stage of the project by getting the variables from the user. Now I'll explain you about the process that we are going to follow to get the optimal output. Now that you are able to see the table, it has been categorized into 5 columns, where the first column is a season and the others are north and south columns, and I have categorized all the 29 states into north and south. So in this process, I've included northeastern states and northwestern states into the north, and the southwestern and the southeastern states into the south. So here comes the user inputs. So if the user is so from this process starts by selecting the state, the season. The first stage of filtration of input is finding whether the state which this user chooses is north or south. So the code will have a if-else statement where the user if selects a north state and will find out whether he is selecting a north or south state. Now, the second stage of filtration will be on the budget and the number of records he has given. If the budget and the records are greater than 50,000 and greater than 10, it has been categorized to the particular column. Now that after second stage of filtration, we'll see the input given by the user for the season. So after these 3 stages of filtration, by seeing the season which you have chosen will give the output of the crop as the crop name and the pesticides which are we going to use to the crop. So we'll maybe making a dictionary where we are going to make the key as a sugarcane, for example, and the value as the pesticides that should be used for the sugarcane crop. So to make this process easier, I will be making a database where we are going to store the database which consists of group of table. Database is a collection of tables. So we will be creating a table like this in the database which we are going to use. So we'll be connecting the database to our code and we'll be declaring 4 variables, and we'll read the input given by the which is season and state and the budget. So we'll fetch all the states from the database table, column named north and south, and all the states will be stored in the all state variable. Now if the user selects a state in the variable which we are going to store in the state variable, we are going to check whether that state is belongs to the north or the south state. If it is belongs to north state, it will be applied as a boolean variable true and it will be going to the second stage. Or if it is false, it will be going to the second stage. And now you can see that there are 2 divisions after the first division. And this is the second stage of filtration, and that will be the budget. So if the budget is less than 50,000, it is be as it's if the budget is greater than 50,000, it will be given as false, and it is going to fetch the output from the database. Same applies for the both. Now that, as I said, we'll be creating a database. The database looks like this. So as I told you before, we are going to create a table, and in that season, NH states, northern states with high, NL states, northern states with low, SH, south high, south low. The name high represents whether the budget and the acres are greater than 50,000 and greater than 10. So this is the structure that we are going to follow, and we are also going to add 2 more columns that are northern states and southern states. So to categorize whether the given input by the user is northern state or southern state, we are going to convert the database elements to an array, and we are going to check whether the element is a northern or a southern, as I told you in the algorithm flowchart. And this is how the ER diagram will be given. So you can see that the guide is the database name and the table is the sub table of the database, and the table is going to have crop as a table name, and that crop we are going to have 6 columns where south is south southern, then north north edge. So I think you have understood. Now let's get started with the coding of the database. Now let us create the database. You can first start importing the library called SQLite 3 and create a variable name con and SQLite3.connect cr.SQLite. It can be any database name or choice, so we'll name it as crop or crop guide. So after naming the database, we should connect the cursor. Cursor acts like to create a table or insert values to the table, we need some cursor so that it helps to fill the values in the table which we are going to create the database crop guide. So let us insert into some values. So before inserting the values, we need to create a table. So let us create the table. Here you can see that you should write a statement that has closed in the double quotes or a single quotes, where we should write create table crop, and the variables which we are going to use are columns are season, H, cell, northern, southern, and varchar says that it will be numerical and it can be numerical or string data type. So as we created the tables, now let us start inserting into values in the table. So first we'll insert all the values of the season. So we should insert in a way where insert to the table name, and we should mention what are the column names that we are going to insert now. So I have only considering for this line only season, NH, NL, SH and SL. So northern and southern will be remained empty. Now as I am inserting kharif, sugarcane, rice, cotton, maize, and these 4 acts as the outputs for kharif as an input, and the same applies for the other values like Rabi and Zaid. Now let us add the values into the northern and southern table, columns. So I have added the values to the northern column and southern column as the states in. So in the northern states are these, southern state are these like Andhra, Karnataka, like those and follows. So now that we created a table and we have added values to it, let us run and see whether the table got created or not. To execute or to check whether the table is working or not, we will be writing a command to check that all the work is it working or not. So let us write a command which helps us to know whether all the values which are inserted into the crop table are inserted or not. So write select start from crop. So start says that all the columns are, we should select all the columns, or we can also write only some particular column. So to execute that, we are going to insert that to a variable, and we are going to fetch the values from the database. So we are going to write fetch all is a syntax is used to fetch the values from the database. So let us print. Now that you are going to see a array which contains each table, and the reason why it is null is we didn't inserted any values on the northern and southern column. So this is the reason that is none. So you can see that we have successfully created a database, and now you can also see the values. As we are done with adding values to the table crop, let us save the changes by writing the command conn.commit. commit will basically save all the changes. So let us run this. See, without any errors, it is completed. Now we can simply remove this all line and just execute few more queries which will be helpful for the coding section that we are going to write in the selected in the submit button. So if you see that now I wrote a query that select star from crop where northern is not null. So I'm asking I need all the values in the northern column and I want to store in an array. And the reason I have used the slicing operator is first I'll uncomment it and I'll run it, and you can see that there are some null values, but there are also the states of northern state. So to overcome, to remove these null values, we will use slicing operator. So simply, first we'll convert the query output to a list type, and in that at the 0th position this tuple is located. And this in this tuple we were going to slice the array by 5th until 5th position because 0, 4, 5 there are 5 null values at the starting, and at the last there is one null value here. So to indicate the last position in an array we will use -1. So now let us print the value after changing this modification. See, now you can see that there are no null values in the array. So the reason why we are doing this is uh, before when the user selects the option in the states, we should categorize whether the selected state is northern or southern. So we can use an in operator which helps us to know whether the given element is a part of this northern state or southern state. So let us see the same command using in the submit button function. For that, there is also another function, query, which helps us to fetch all the, I mean, to fetch the crop name with respect to the season. So I'll show you now. Now you can see that I'm asking select NH from crop where season is question mark. Basically, I'm asking to the database in the season column, I need the north high value for the season Kharif. So question mark indicates whether it can be a dynamic variable because at one time I may need Kharif and it depends on the user. So I'm keeping as a variable to giving as an input to the database. Let us run this. You got the output as sugarcane. See, now you got the queries, and let us jump to the coding section where we are going to use this both queries. Now let us add some more functions to the submit button by importing the database and fetching the data using SQLite 3. So first import SQLite 3 and go to the submit button, def submit, and you can see that first establish a connection with the database and create a cursor, and now I have created a query which retrieves all the states in the northern, and it will be stored in a variable ANS. So now I am going to check whether user entered the input is north or south by using this in operator. So STA holds the value of the user input that can be any state. Now ANS of 0 will have all the northern states. So if user clicks on southern state, it will be returning false or true. So let us create an if and else loop and print north and south. If it is a northern state, it will, as it is true, it will go next, or else it will print south. Now we'll run the application. See. Now I'll select the acres budget, click submit, and you can see that it gave as north. So it is saying that it has established the correctly and it has given the as north. Now we can proceed to the next step by keeping the second stage and third stage of filtrations, that are budget and acres. Now we'll add second stage of filtration by keeping two constraints on budget and acres. So let us add four if-else statements, and we'll keep the first condition as print not high. Else statement print north low. The same for south. North to south. So let us try with the way. Now we'll select a northern state and any season, and we'll keep acres as 15 acres and budget as 60,000. We'll submit, and you can see that we got high. So from this, the second stage of filtration is done. Like at the same proceeds for south high and south low. The reason I have kept north high and north low is we have created a column in the database which has a column name NH and NL and SH and SL. So now we can fetch the data from the database, as we have written a statement in the database that can execute and get the crop when the season is in the variable which is given by the input. So now let us try giving the season and adding all the inputs, and we'll get the crop name. Now I have added the code for selecting the north and south high and north high to get the input season, the output crop. So change SH to NH. Now as it's an NH if else statement, we should write NH here, and the season SC is stored in the input which we stored before. So SC holds the value of the season. And now I told you that question mark helps us to find the particular dynamic variable's season in the particular NH column. So let us copy the same, paste for north low, and we should change NH to NL, and same for the south and south high, and change NH to SH and SL. We'll run the command. You can see the GUI. Just give some input. We'll select a northern state, select the season as Kharif, and give the acres as 15 and budget as 60,000, and click on submit. And you can see in the left we got the output as sugarcane. So now we are successfully able to get the output and output name crop. Now we can also test for south high and south low. Now we'll test for a southern state. Now we'll keep the southern state Tamil Nadu, season as Kharif, and same 15, budget as 60,000. And you can see that we got a new output cotton. let us try for a south low. We'll select Tamil Nadu, the 8th season, and 5 acres, 30,000. Budget. Click submit. Now you can see that we got tomato as the output. So this is how we fetch the data from the database, and now we are successfully getting the output name, and I mean the crop name in the code in the submit button. Now let us add some more features to the text labels that we have created for the image and the output line edit, so that now we'll print this DD on the line edit screen. I have created a folder named img in my directory, and I have stored all the images of the crops, as the name of the crop should be exactly same in the database name also, because we are going to retrieve the name from this database, and I have also renamed the files of the images to the same name. So make sure if you are changing these images, make sure the spellings of the images. Now as I have completed and you can see the images, now let us insert these images to our GUI. Before changing this, you should resize the window size to 1000,854 on the top of the setup UI function. After changing that, go to the submit button. Write the self.label image, as we have renamed the image label to label_image. Now the syntax setPixMap is used to set the image in the GUI. So qtgui.qpixmap, and now you should give the path of the folder image img, and as we have the crop name in the dd, now as you can also see that I've created all the images in png format in the directory. You can see all the images are in .png. So, and you should also make sure that all the images should be in only one png or jpeg. So as we are concatenating three strings, we are using the plus symbol, and now whenever the user clicks different inputs, the dd will be changed, and it will concat and it will find for the image with the same name. So I have pasted this command in the both north high and north low, and south high and south low. Now let us try. Now you can see that the UI become big due to I have increased the main window size. The reason I've increased the main window size is to show the image properly, and I have also increased the line edit by the same. Now you can see that I have clicked on state Delhi and season at Zaid as 15 and budget is around 60,000, and click on the submit button, and you can see that you got the cucumber as an output and the output name and the pesticide which we are going to use. So this is how you use the quick map setPixMap syntax to set an image in the GUI. Now let us add a display image to our GUI. Basically, whenever we open the GUI, we can see an image stating like a crop or any display image like a wallpaper to our image. So we'll use the same syntax setPixMap, and I have also created an image known as main.png. Main.png has a image which is normally a scenery image, so it looks attractive whenever we can see the GUI. Now let us run the command and see whether it's working or not. Now you can see that there is a display image, it's working fine. So this is how you create a setPixMap image in the GUI before running and after running. Now you can also dynamically change this image after changing the inputs. and we'll give some inputs. Let us try whether this image is changing when we change the main image. And you can see that the image has been changed to sugarcane. The output, you can also see that the sugarcane and the pest that we are going to use. So now you can easily create an image, and you can replace the image after running the code. Now let us see what we have done so far in this submit function. Initially, we have created a res variable which stores the crop name and the pesticides used, and we have established a successful connection with the crop guide.sqlite database which we have created before. And next, we have created a cursor which points the query, and it will execute the query and fetches all the outputs from the answer variable and stores in an array. Now I'll show you the four variables of the input which we have taken from the user are using the current text and the dot text. Current text is used for combo box and dot text is used for line edits. And these four are the key variables which we have used. And later we have used the ANS variable that we have created before for getting the state which the user told. And now we have created first an if-else statement stating if ns and else. And then we have created sub if-else nested if-else statements where if money is greater than 50,000 and x greater than 10, and the same as else, and the same for the else statement in the outside the else statement, sorry. And next you can see that we have computed, again we have executed an query of SQL statement stating I need the crop which is in sh, and I have passed a variable using sc variable, and sc variable holds the value of the crop, the season name. Now we again stored the value and kept in dd variable, and again we have shown the output in the line edit. And before showing, we have added res which we have created before, a dictionary that holds both the key value pairs of the pesticides and the crop name. Then we concatenated and we have stored in a variable called result. Now we have passed that result variable to line edit underscore output object, and now we have used set text command to set the text in the line edit label. Now we have used set pixmap that we have used before to keep an image on the GUI, and we have successfully done with this project. Now I will give you a recap of the project with the workflow of progress. Congratulations on completing this project successfully. Now let us recap the important points in the workflow which we followed. Initially, we started designing the GUI in the Qt Designer application, and then we have established a connection with the database and stored the values to the database. And in the coding section, we have used the database which we have created, and we have done the code reusability so that with minimum steps we can get the output. Now let us see the important points in each workflow. In the designing the GUI, what are the important points I'm going to show? The important points in the GUI creation is you should know that while creating the labels names will be defined, and you should rename those labels to use in the coding section to our convenience. And next thing, there are many widgets, and you can use any widget and you can perform several operations, and you can also change font and add color, and there are many properties for styling each widget. And now comes the database connection. The important points in the database establishment is initially we should create a database, and we should add tables to the database, and in the table we need to store the values. So to store the values we need to create columns. So we can create n number of columns and we can store n number of values. And to create a column, we need to write create table name and the column name. To insert the values to the particular column, we need to use insert into table name and the column name and the values and the value name. So this is how you create a database and add table and add values to it. To save these changes, we need to use conn.commit. The commit is so important that if you forgot to add it, every time it says that a table already exists, but there will be no entries in the database. So these are the important points while creating a database and adding to the values to it while creating a connection between the GUI and the database. Now let us discuss few important points while writing the code for the GUI. So if you see, if you want to resize the window size, you need to use main window dot resize and give your parameters. And this is important while inserting any new elements to the GUI. And please remember this resize. And if you want to add any item in the combo box, first you should write self.combo box name dot add item, and you should only enclose with the double quotes in the def setup UI, and in the def retranslate UI you should add the values in it. You see in the def retranslate UI here we are adding the values to the combo box here. So make sure you add the items there and add the values in the items by the respective index numbers. Here the index starts with 0 and next 1 and 2, and it can be any number of n number of elements. And now let us see some another changes in the labels and the label sizes. Now if you see that how to change the size of a line edit or a label, you need to use set geometry. Set geometry is a function which helps us to change the size by increasing the x-axis and the y-axis and the width and the height of the GUI. I mean the label in the GUI. So this is the important point. Whenever you want to resize the label or the line edits, you need to write set geometry and qt-code.qreact. So these are the parameters that you need to pass while resizing the labels. And if you want to connect the submit button to a function, this is so important. Whenever you create a function and if you forgot to establish a connection between the submit button and the function which you created, you need to use .clicked.connect. So this will help us to connect a function to a button. And now I'll explain you about the image widget. And you can also resize the image widget with the same as I told you, set geometry. And now I'll show you how to set an image. As I told you, to set an image we need to follow set pixmap. Set pixmap is used to set an image in the GUI, and you need to show the path the correct way, or else it will return null. I mean it doesn't show any image in the GUI. And now you can also style the labels or the line edits in the code also. If you want to do that, you can just search, or you can see in the 18th or the initial lines in the setup.ui function, you can see types like font, set bold as true or false, it's a boolean variable, set weight. Weight is basically the font, I mean how much bold you want the text. And you can also set the font, and these fonts are available in the Qt designer and you can change it anytime. And these are the important points in the workflow which we have done. So this makes our end of this project. Thank you.